Today, we will discuss the digestive system. To begin our discussion, we must first understand the components of the digestive system. The digestive system includes the gastrointestinal tract, commonly referred to with the abbreviation GI. The gastrointestinal tract includes the mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and large intestine. There are also several accessory organs that should be noted. The salivary glands, liver, gallbladder, and exocrine pancreas are all important accessory organs and tissues that secrete substances into the gastrointestinal tract. It also needs to be remembered that another name for the gastrointestinal tract is the alimentary canal. As probably known, the main processes of the digestive system are to process ingested foods into molecular forms and transfer them, along with other nutrients, throughout the tract so they can be absorbed or excreted. It is also important to note that the gastrointestinal tract is under local neural control of the enteric nervous system and the central nervous system. The digestive system has four basic processes: digestion, secretion, absorption, and motility. Digestion involves the dissolving and breaking down of substances. This is accomplished by hydrochloric acid in the stomach, bile from the liver, and multiple other enzymes throughout the tract that are released from the exocrine glands. Each of these substances are then released into the lumen of the gastrointestinal tract through secretion. The molecules produced along with other nutrients are then moved from the lumen of the gastrointestinal tract across a layer of epithelial cells and enter the blood or lymph. This is then absorption. The movement of these molecules throughout the gastrointestinal tract are possible due to contractions referred to as motility. Motility can occur in three different ways: either migrating motor complex, often referred to as MMC, peristalsis contractions, or segmental contractions. The pattern known as migrating motor complex is known as a housekeeping function that moves food remnants and bacteria out of the upper GI tract and into the large intestine. This occurs when the stomach is mostly empty and is a very slow process. It usually takes about 90 minutes for the particles to reach the large intestine. Peristaltic contractions occur during or after a meal. They are progressive waves of contractions that move the particles throughout the gastrointestinal tract. These contractions occur in circular muscles behind a bolus that push it forward into what is known as the receiving segment. This contraction continues constantly behind the bolus to continue pushing it through the tract. Similar to peristaltic contraction, segmental contractions also occur during or after a meal. However, in this type of contraction, short segments of about 1 to 5 centimeters of intestines contract. The circular muscles contract and the longitudinal muscles relax. These contractions can occur at random or at regular intervals. The alternation of the different types of muscles contracting and relaxing allows for material to mix and come into contact with the absorptive epithelium. It is imperative that this occurs so that all of the digested material can move throughout and become in contact with the walls to be absorbed. Food processing is typically divided into three phases: the cephalic phase, gastric phase, and intestinal phase. First, we will look at the cephalic phase. Many people do not realize this, but digestion in the body often begins before a person ever ingests food. The cephalic phase is simply the anticipation of food. In this phase, a set of digestive reflexes are triggered by stimuli received in the brain, such as the smell or sight of food. These reflexes activate neurons in the medulla oblongata, which send efferent signals through autonomic neurons to the salivary glands and through the vagus nerve to the enteric nervous system. The stomach, intestines, and accessory glandular organs then begin secretion and increase motility in anticipation of ingestion. After the cephalic phase, food enters the mouth for mastication and mixes with saliva. Saliva softens and moistens the food, begins the digestion of starch, allows for taste, and is also a defense due to its antibacterial properties. The food is then swallowed, where it passes through the esophagus into the stomach, where the next phase, a gastric phase, is allowed to begin. In the gastric phase, food enters the stomach and stimulates the gastric lumen to begin a series of short reflexes. This causes distension of the stomach and addition of peptides in the lumen, which initiate endocrine cells and enteric neurons. A mixture of these hormones, neurotransmitters, paracrine molecules influence motility and secretion in the stomach. After the gastric phase, food is then moved into the intestines, where the intestinal phase occurs. The chyme entering the small intestine has undergone minimal chemical digestion, so its entry must be highly controlled in order to prevent overwhelming the organ. Remember, most of the digestion occurs in the intestines, so little to no digestion has truly occurred up to this point. Motility is highly controlled in order to slowly move the contents by segmental and peristaltic contractions. By performing these contractions, the chyme is able to mix with the enzymes and be exposed to the mucosal epithelium where absorption occurs. It is crucial this process occurs at a slow rate in order to assure proper digestion and absorption of the contents. It is also important to note that the parasympathetic innervation and gastrointestinal hormones gastrin and CCK promote intestinal motility while sympathetic innervation inhibits it. The efferent control signals from the gut to the stomach and pancreas are both neural and hormonal. Upon entering the intestine, chyme activates the enteric nervous system, which causes a decrease in gastric motility and secretion and slows gastric emptying. In addition to this, 3 hormones, secretin, CCK, and gastrin, inhibitory peptide, help to reinforce this decreased motility. Secretin is released due to the presence of the acidic chyme in the duodenum and works to inhibit acid production and decrease gastric motility. It also works to stimulate production of pancreatic bicarbonate to neutralize the acidic chyme in the intestine. If the ingested material contains fats, CCK is secreted into the bloodstream to slow gastric motility and acid secretion. If the ingested material contains carbohydrates, the incretin hormones GIP and glucagon-like peptide 1 are released to promote insulin release by the endocrine pancreas to allow the cells to prepare for glucose absorption. This mixture of acid, enzymes, and chyme creates a hyperosmotic solution, which the intestinal walls are incredibly sensitive to. The solution inhibits gastric emptying in a reflex mediated by an unknown bloodborne substance. Altogether, these phases work to control the passage of material throughout the gastrointestinal tract in a manner that increases absorption and digestion.